So welcome back, everyone, to a virtual tasting with Vinny's. I am Pat from the Whiskey Hotline, joined by Joe, who is not a safe distance away from me, and Brett, but it's all right. Joe and I are in each other's bubble. Our guest today is Charles Joly, champion mixologist Charles Joly of local bar fame. Welcome, Charles. Thank you for joining us. We are talking about some pre-mixed cocktails today, but of I think, a slightly elevated quality. Certainly. So, Charles, you want to give us a little background on yourself and how you found yourself now standing in a bar behind boxes and cans?
Absolutely. Well, this is my dining room. So this is just the way I live. This is a day in the life right here, typical. But yeah, I'll give you the rundown real quick on I guess the elevator pitch for me. I'm born and raised Chicagoan, and been in the hospitality industry, the bar industry in Chicago my entire life, adult life. 22 years now. Worked in just about every kind of bar in the city here. Joined up with the bar group as a 20-something that had places all around the city. There was a group called Three Headed Productions. We opened one of the first 100% agave tequila bars in Wicker Park called Salud, which was really ahead of its time. It was like when people knew it was either Cuervo or Patron, and that was it. And like, the 100% agave movement was really just starting to pop. We opened one of the first canned beer bars when everybody was like, beer in cans. Like, what do you like? You can't have craft beer in cans, and knew ahead of time that like so many of the imports were coming in, and it was great for just great for quality and whatnot. So we then accidentally opened one of the first craft cocktail bars in the city called the Drawing Room down on Rush Street in Oak. A lot of people thought it was a speakeasy because we were in the basement off of Rush Street, and there was no windows, but it was the only real estate we could afford at the time. It was an accidental speakeasy. We had no idea, and we didn't know there was going to be this huge craft cocktail movement. But I really found my path there and fell in love with it, and just found that I had the knack for creating cocktails and it pairing it up with serving my guests and the hospitality side with the creativity of the cocktails really blew, kind of tied it all together for me in the late 2000s. And it just happened to be at that moment that there's this massive cocktail renaissance happening. And you guys know firsthand the way those liquor store shelves have changed. If you go back just a dozen years from 2008 to now, completely different. If you think about the number of vermouths that are on the shelf or the number of bitters that are on the shelf compared to 12 years ago, it's just a whole different world. The number of craft micro distilleries, gins exploding and whatnot. But
I remember you talking. We've talked to you about that before. What it was like when you guys opened Drawing Room. It's sort of, because it probably wasn't real linear for you, right? It just like a whole bunch of things that all of a sudden you're getting into the business and all these cool things that nobody else knows about, you're finding out about. I remember you talking about when you guys opened Drawing Room, how you go about going and getting the proper bar equipment, because it wasn't there. I mean, what was it like trying to find enough to do something more outside of the box, or did you guys started with more traditional cocktails?
We were learning as we went. I had the fortune of having a mentor, a woman named Bridget Albert, who ran this class called the Academy of Spirits and Fine Service, and she kind of got me pointed in the right direction, and is still a friend to this day, dear friend. But we didn't like the ingredients didn't exist. You couldn't go to the store and buy a great tonic water, wasn't out there. So we were going to Mer's Apothecary and getting dried botanicals over on Lincoln Avenue, and making our own tonic waters at the time. And now it's like, it seems like, oh, it's a cool thing to do. It's like, no, I'm not making my own tonic water anymore. I can go and buy 3 amazing ones at your place, right? And I don't have to worry about filtering out all this stuff, or whatever it might be. A lot of our own liqueurs and all sorts of things we had to make because they didn't exist. But it was great because we were kind of paving the way, and it moved so quickly, which was fantastic. And then while I was at the Drawing Room for several years, I got into cocktail competitions because it was just a really fun way to meet other people that were like-minded, because the community was still pretty small at that time. And this is like, don't get me wrong, like I don't flare. You don't want to see me flip any bottles. These are like more like Top Chef style competitions. And ended up doing well in a bunch of those, and got on this reality show that was like Top Chef, and won that damn thing. And that was cool. And then ended up heading over to the aviary down in Fulton Market and taking over that as the beverage director. So I mean, turned it up a notch on the creativity side of things. Taking a lot of cues that into a world that I was not familiar with, which was fun. We both had a lot to learn from one another over at that joint, and they're still kicking and doing great. Get down there and support that place. They've got an amazing to-go program right now.
Yeah, see, I think that's because people don't, because now I think that in this part of, well, not now, unfortunately, for the last 7 months, but previous to that, I mean, cocktail bars were starting to become a little bit ubiquitous to the point in time where everybody was trying to do some level of cocktail bar. But I think people forget, because there's so many of them around now, that people forget, which is why I wanted you to talk about that, what you had to do, because in a lot of cases, when I asked where you couldn't shop, right? You couldn't shop. You were just like, okay, I'm not going to find this anywhere. So I need to make and create, which I think was a natural progression drawing room into the program that you're doing at Aviary. And I'm assuming, at what point in time did that start to become a progression for you into Crafthouse?
Yeah, so the owner of the drawing room, and one of the principal owners of Salud Tequila Lounge, and our beer bar, and several other places that we had and that we had opened around the country. I was the operations director for, that was kind of working in the bars in that role. And the primary partner was a guy named Matt Lindner, who been, he's over 25 years in the industry in Chicago as well. His very first bar he opened was Bird's Nest over on Southport, way back in the day. And I mean, he bought the place, he slept in the back of the place,
was that when he opened that? Did he buy that from Shanaky's?
I don't know. I don't have,
because that was Shanaky's. That was a bar called Shanaky's before it was Bird's Nest, because one of the first times I ever came to Chicago, I was incredibly overserved at Shanaky's in like 1989 in that exact place. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, but
tradition unlike any other.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, that's weird how that would happen. A rare occasion. Yeah, so he and I are the founders of Crafthouse, and this idea, I mean, this has been around 7 years we've been out. So, and it actually started about 9 years ago, because it took us about 2 years of R&D to come to bring it to market, because we're bar guys, I understand how to make cocktails. I understand hospitality. I understand balance. I understand ingredients, but I don't know how to produce something. At that time, we've learned, we didn't know how to produce something at scale, bring it to market and everything. It took us some time. And to get the profiles right took a lot of work, because, this cocktails and spirits and hospitality, it's my career until the day I die. So like, we had no interest in putting our names on anything that wasn't going to represent what we were doing at, some of the best cocktail bars in the city. But it literally was born out of necessity and our guests asking us. It wasn't like we wanted to make a product and then shove it into the market to try and make bags of money, because that's this business, it's a bad plan. It's a failing proposition if you do it that way. But we started from a need from our guests. Like, it happened one night, for like literally our guests would ask us, be like, oh, I love this cocktail on your menu, like, can I make it at home? Be like, absolutely. We write it down exactly, walk them through the steps of how to make it. This is what you're going to buy. This is how you're going to do it. And I get a call one night at the drawing room, and a hostess comes over, and she's like, it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night on a Friday night. Like, she's like, you got a call.
Yeah, you're not busy at all.
I'm like, why are you bringing me the phone? Why are you bringing me the phone in the middle of the night on a weekend shift? Yeah, we're big because we're a restaurant as well. And so like, it was the hardest service. We were open till 4 a.m. So we had restaurant seating, and then after midnight, all the industry would start to trickle in as they got off work. But and it was one of our regulars though on the phone, and she's like, hey, I'm making that cocktail. It was an aviation. And she's like, I'm making it and it's not coming out like it was in the bar. I'm doing everything you told me to, and I'm trying to walk through to see where she was missing. And we just started to talk that night, like, can we do what we do in the bar and use the same ingredients, use real quality spirits, use, real citrus, make simple syrup, like just do what we do in the bar and take a recipe for one cocktail that I would make for my guests and then make a big batch of it and put it into small bottles, as opposed to the other way that so many prepared drinks were they were made to flavor to simulate a cocktail. They weren't the actual ingredients. They were just made to simulate the flavors of a cocktail. We're like, we know how to make cocktails. Let's just make that and make a bunch of them. And and we had that that theory in our head, and it took us some time, but we got it down. And now 7 years on the shelves. The family's grown quite a bit. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. So it's been a wild journey.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember when you launched, we had three things. We had a South Side and a Mule, and I forget Paloma. Yeah.
And the Paloma, right?
So what have you expanded to now? We've got a whole lineup in front of you. The little cans, we've got them all pretty much at every single Binny's location.
Yep.
What do you have there on top of those original three now? A Gold Rush got added, right?
Yep. So we launched with the Mezcal Mule, the South Side, which is basically it's a gin sour with mint, and the Paloma, and at that time though, the Mezcal Mule, everyone's like, now there's a million Mezcal Mules on the market, but 9 years ago it was still like, you had to give your ID to get your copper mug at a bar because everyone was pocketing copper mugs at bars. It was absolutely crazy.
Right.
And then we wanted to have an aged spirit cocktail, which was the Gold Rush, and the Gold Rush is a whiskey sour, essentially. What we would consider it a contemporary classic. It comes out of New York, out of Milk and Honey, and it substitutes honey for the simple syrup in it. So we work with Traverse City Bourbon in that cocktail. And then just this year we added 3 new ones, which I'm super excited about. A pineapple daiquiri, which is like, people hear daiquiri and they hear pineapple and they're thinking like some bad cruise ship drink they had at some point, or something in New Orleans from a slushy machine. But like the daiquiri is a beautiful classic cocktail. It's a bartender favorite. If you talk to cocktail bartenders at the end of shift and they want something refreshing and delicious, rum, lime, and sugar in the right mix together is a thing of beauty. And we really hit that with the pineapple daiquiri. And then the Mezcal Margarita, the smoky margarita. I'm a huge agave spirits drinker. I drink tons of mezcal, tons of tequila. I've been down to Mexico countless times, down to the growing regions. And then we wanted to do a boozy cocktail as well, something that was spirit forward. So we're like, where do we go? Manhattan, old fashioned. And I drink a lot of what I would call whiskey drinkers rums, long aged rums that drink kind of like whiskeys. And I love to use those types of rums in cocktails. And so we did a rum old fashioned as well. It's like a full cocktail. I mean, there's something for everybody in those 7, and we've even got some newer stuff coming out here as soon as next week.
So it's interesting because I remember growing, I was we were obviously involved with you from a retail perspective. It's like, whatever you make, we'll take it in. Right. Yeah. And I remember all the headaches in the development time that you had to go through when you were doing the Mule, the South Side, and then especially the Paloma. And in fact, I remember you getting held up on the Paloma for a couple of different sourcing reasons. So the drink, in your sleep, what is your development time as you're doing these? So I think people need to understand the development time just to get a single one of these in the bottle because of the time you're taking on the ingredients.
Yeah, and the first iteration legitimately took almost 2 years. Now we have some things streamlined because we know how to design a label a little bit quicker. We know where to source lime juice from. We know where to, how to make simple syrup. But holy cow, those first batches of Mezcal Mule we make our ginger beer from scratch. So it's, real ginger juice. You got ginger pulp involved in it. We're making a ginger beer, a ginger soda from scratch with ginger. You've got your vodka, your lime, and we clogged every filter in the facility that moves it for, you make a big container of Mezcal Mule essentially, and then it gets pumped into little cans and they get capped. But along the way, you've got to filter some a little bit, and we clog every filter. And I'll tell you, when Mezcal Mule, when ginger juice backs up, it is slippery. Because I mean, we created a big mess at the bottling plant. So there's some great learning experiences with that. We've definitely streamlined now. Depending on what the spirit is, I can come up with an idea and probably in 3 months have it out onto the shelf. But you're right, like something like, of course, like our mezcal, our tequila, we have to source that. It's coming across borders. Our rums are all plantation rums, so those are all getting shipped in. So yeah, it's not just stuff that's domestic when we're using imported spirits. So there's so many moving parts. There's a lot of logistics involved in it, but it's been fun thus far, and it's cool because I mean there's a new acceptance. When we launched, there wasn't much on the market. There was like High West had a nice bottled Manhattan, a barrel aged Manhattan, but that was like $60. So like in terms of accessibility, for $5 or $6 for a 2-serving bottle, there was nothing else on the market. It was in terms of quality, there's such a huge gap.
Well, there was nothing. I mean, you had
there were
plastic
Chi-Chis.
jugs.
Yeah, there were Chi-Chis, right? There were plastic jugs of Chi-Chis, and then there was High West and Jefferson's, and that nobody occupying that middle spot.
Yeah, there were these big plastic neon jugs that are a single chemical bond away from being a plastic, and then there was $60 High West bottles. And then your stuff came along, and I said to you earlier when we were chit-chatting before we went live here, I think the true test of a quality ready-to-drink cocktail is that if you are served that cocktail at a bar, would you order another one? And I think the first ones for me personally that I had where I was like, wow, this is, if I paid for this cocktail at a bar and somebody said, would you like another one? It's another, $9-10 or whatever. I would easily just say, yes, I'll have another one of these. And I think that's this balance that you've hit with Crafthouse. And I think it's really down to, like you had mentioned earlier, your ingredients, your sourcing, and the method behind this. I mean, you found these great distillery partners, and I mean, are we calling these all natural? I mean, I know they're not certified organic or something, but I don't think but they don't taste like there's anything fake in there. So I mean, okay.
Yeah, they are. So from day one, it was when Matt and I started to talk about this company, we're like, I mean, our principles were, don't put anything in the bottle we don't want to talk about, that you're worried to talk about. You know what I mean? Like let's try to use exactly what we use behind the bar. And so with some work, there's not a single preservative in any of these products. Our citrus is pasteurized, and the fact that we have there's pretty high acidity in the cocktails helps with stabilization, and they have real ABVs. So the alcohol by volume, the proof of the cocktails, it's not a 5% hard seltzer type situation. They're 10.1 all the way up to almost 25% with the old fashioned, and that higher alcohol helps stabilize the whole thing as well. And of course, like I said, like the citrus has been pasteurized, but otherwise the ingredients in it, we make the simple syrup. We get sugar in and we make simple syrup. We're not using any kind of corn syrup or anything like that. We source real, like you said, like the spirits that we use. Every spirit that we use, none of it's like something that you wouldn't want to drink on its own. Like it would something that I would buy a bottle of myself. And that's been the cool thing about being in the business for over 20 years. We've made a lot of relationships and made friends with distillers, and it just happened like CH Distillery opened up on Randolph while I was at the aviary, and we were looking for a vodka and a gin source, and so like those guys were 4 blocks away, and started to talk to them. We're like, hey, can we buy some gin from you? And they're like, yeah, absolutely, we'd love to work with you. This like looks like what you're going to be doing is great. And so every time we need some gin, we call them up, they distill some gin, and we buy it from them. The same thing happened with the guys from Traverse City Whiskey. Like we knew one of the partners there, and they were making whiskey. We needed some. We're like, hey, like let's see what we can do if we can't get together on it. And then most recently, plantation rums, which like for me to be able to do the pineapple daiquiri with Plantation's Stiggins pineapple rum.
What an awesome rum.
If people haven't had this, I mean, you can get it at Binny's, of course. It is an amazing pineapple rum. Like, you hear flavored rum and your mind goes to all sorts of like these goofy, like, you know, artificially flavored. This stuff is so delicious, and it was made, you know, for an event for bartenders, and it wasn't supposed to be in production. And all the bartenders that had it were like, we need to buy this. Well, we all want, if you make this, we will put it in our bars. And so the crew from Plantation went back and actually put it in production, and it's a banging product. So we mixed that with their 5-year Barbados rum and real Angostura bitters. I mean, it's lime and then it's simple syrup. It's exactly the way I would make it at my bar. So none of the ingredients change. It was pretty amazing to be able to use those and get it right. The same thing happened with the old fashioned.
Has it made a difference in terms of, because I know that early on, you know, again, people, you got to understand that this was all a learning process going from the bar to shelf stabilization of what is supposed to be a non-perishable product. Has it made, just removing things from light, how much of a difference or help has it been being in cans? In terms of stabilizing product, just for no other reason than removing light exposure.
Totally. Your enemies for any product, as you know, even a bottle of spirits, for example, like I was just drinking some rye whiskey from 1908 this weekend.
I just happened to be drinking some pre-prohibition rye, you know, no big deal. Hey, we're in quarantine. I had to move a few bottles down the line to new homes. So the new caretaker of those bottles was kind enough to pour a little bit, and we did some tasting. But those bottles were delicious. So that, you know, that was probably distilled in either 1900 or 1899. It's the bottle's still great. So like the spirits, you know, a pure spirit doesn't degrade, but the things like, as Brett was saying, light, oxygen, heat are all the enemies of, you know, will help deteriorate anything. So yeah, I think having a light, you know, taken out out of the equation is a good thing. We also did some extra filtration to remove some of the pulp as well, so that doesn't, you know, kind of start to go off. But it's incredibly stable based on proof, acidity, and the fact that the citrus has been pasteurized already. So yeah, we do testing on it, like there's tons of testing you do on your stuff to make sure that it's shelf stable, and you basically beat the heck out of it and blast it with super high heat. You put it in the worst conditions possible and see what happens and make sure that it's good. So I think like these new, even more so when you talk about keeping out oxygen and everything else, these new format is gonna end up being the freshest that you're gonna be able to get. Yeah, we just tried this for the first time today, the spicy margarita bag in a box, and we were very impressed. This was really good. I think these are coming into the stores next week, if not the week after at the latest. Maybe one of our distributor partners will chime in and let us know.
Buy some.
Yeah, these are unbelievable. And we're not drinking them the way you're supposed to. All of us are just drinking them at room temperature in a plastic cup, and they're incredible. You know, but let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, Charles. I mean, we kind of wanted, obviously we have a different holiday season now with entertaining. We went from kind of your little swing top 750 there, where we can pour out, you know, 6, 12 cocktails, and it's kind of just, you know, us and the significant other now. So these little 2-serving cans of yours are kind of the perfect solution here for lazy jerks like me who refuse to mix their own cocktails. So how do you kind of, what would your suggestions be for which one of these are you kind of going to enjoy with your Thanksgiving dinner, and would you dress it up in a particular way?
Yeah, there's a few of them that, I mean, honestly, the whole lineup, and I think the perception, you know, sometimes people think of these prepared cocktails and they think spring, summer, but it's a 4-season situation. These cocktails translate all winter long as well. And we've actually always done incredibly well through the holidays, because I think because it's not like I think, you know, a 95-degree hot summer day in the backyard might be a, you know, be like, that's when you had your 4% hard seltzer or something. But like these cocktails work all year round. And you're right, like the format of like these are 200 milliliter cans, so you get a solid couple cocktails out of here, especially with the proof. And they're all sold individually, so you can kind of mix and match it. So I would, you know, I was thinking about the way when I pair cocktails with food all the time. I do the official cocktails for the Oscar Awards. I do it for the Emmys. And we're there when we didn't do them live this year at the Emmys. We did them virtually. We'll probably do the Oscars virtually as well. But Wolfgang Puck does the food. I do the cocktails at the Governor's Ball post Oscar. So when we're looking at food pairing, a lot of times people go to wine. Of course, it's so classic to pair wine and food, but you can pair cocktails with food 100%. When you look at some of these, they're 10.1% on the Mezcal Mule. There's plenty of wines, you know, 10 to 15% is not absurd for a glass of wine, like by any stretch. So you can't say they're too strong in that case, so because that we knocked that out right away. So something like the Southside, for example, which is again one of our core. So it's CH gin, it's lime, it's a little simple syrup, and then it has mint. So I like this. It's lighter. It's a little bit refreshing for sure. You get the mint. It's bringing through some nice herbs. And I would start with something like this cocktail. And it's a nice kind of aperitif in that sense. It's lighter. It's someplace where you might drink like easy drinking pills to start, or you're even kind of like a high acidity, maybe like a sour beer or a gose or something like that to kind of kick off. You can use this cocktail, or you would be drinking sparkling wine to start your meal. So I would start off with a little bit of this, and I might take this up a notch then a little bit by doing just a little sparkling wine on top to give us a little bit of festive touch to this. You know, of course you don't need to, it's made to drink on its own, but kind of give it a little more effervescence. Add a little bit of texture to it, and then we can get some fresh herbs in it as well. And I think there's something about the holidays that it's about this time of year when I mean, who doesn't want sparkling wine all the time? But there's something about you know, if even it's two people, you can have a celebration with two people. You can have a celebration with you and your dog, whatever you want. That's what I mean. Like, do you
always give the herbs that little slap and tickle before putting them in the cocktail there?
Yeah, we call it spanking. You could call it slap tickle, however you like. When you take it, it just starts to release the oils in the leaves, and so it makes it much more aromatic. So as you bring your nose up, you start to get all of those herbs, and this is going to go great with your early courses, your lighter courses. If you've got some salad or something that you're starting off with, this would be killer with some oysters or a light fish dish that you were going with, something a light grilled, lightly dressed dish. It would be a really nice way to start. Not too high ABV. You've got it on ice, and so it's going to dilute a little bit down as well and be really nice that way.
What style of bubbles did you use that you poured on top?
I just used, you know, when I'm mixing cocktails, I just use the dry prosecco.
Okay.
And it's, you know, I think you know, go with what you know, whatever you can afford and you like to drink. But for mixing cocktails, a nice cava or a dry a prosecco is a great option to make cocktails with, you know. And there's so many. I mean, geez, the size of the sparkling wine and champagne section at some of the stores, especially if you go down to go down to Marcy Street or down in South Loop. I mean, it's beautiful. You get lost in there. You know, it's a beautiful thing. So,
but as far as the cocktail goes, I mean, it's more of a textural thing than a flavor thing with the sparkling wine. So, I mean, a prosecco that you're, you know, going to spend $8 to $12 on is the perfect pairing.
Yeah, and then you've got a split, you know, so you can nip that as you go along. But
a palate cleanser.
Yeah. So this is kind of light, you know, herbal. Refreshing, even more crisp when we start to kick in some of the sparkling wine if you go that route. But if you want something that's got a little bit warmer flavors, honestly, the Mezcal Mule if you think about when people talk about pumpkin spice, which drives some people nuts this times of year, but it's just baking spices when you think of pumpkin spice: cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, allspice, all of those things that are kind of like autumn spices or cool weather spices. A Moscow Mule goes so perfectly. Those are also the spices that happen to be in something like Angostura bitters, which are just like a key ingredient in so many cocktails. Dash of Angostura added to your Moscow Mule, absolutely delicious. But ginger goes with all of those flavors so cleanly, and that's also going to be on that light, refreshing side. So it's going to be really, really easy to pair that, and it's going to be pretty seamless, and it's going to be really friendly in terms of what it can go with.
Yeah, ginger is just as much a fall flavor as those kind of classic baking spices for sure, and it's something that gets left kind of aside. I mean, it pairs well with, you know, your typical orchard fruits and stuff like that. So
100%. I mean, that's one of my favorite things is this time of year, seedling ciders. It's local, local producer, makes some gorgeous ciders. You mix those with some baking spices and they go absolutely fantastic, which something like that, if you wanted to modify your Gold Rush, you know, it's a bourbon sour, bourbon, lemon, honey, and Angostura bitters. And that's what's in there. So that one's just a layup with these kind of Thanksgiving meals. And you could start, that's a cocktail that you can get into as you start to get with your heavier courses. It's got the tannins from the whiskey in it. But then it also has acidity. There's two things you can do when you're pairing cocktails against a richer dish. So once you get to the mains, and if you've got some heavier meat courses, you can either use a little bit higher alcohol to cut through some of that richness, or you can use acidity, and the lemon juice in that Gold Rush will also cut through that. And so you can do either route, can do that. So something like the old fashioned can work at that point. You might want to pour yourself a smaller portion of it because of the ABV, or the Gold Rush, so there's two routes to go when you're pairing with that. But I personally would save that old fashioned, that rum old fashioned, which is two types of rum, both from plantation. We use their 5-year Barbados, and we also use a Jamaican rum, which brings in a little bit of funk and just like really just great, like great texture and just great, like just a little bit of fun to it. And then we, our bitter choice in there, my friends at Bitter Sling give us access to their chocolate bitters. And so as opposed to a traditional aromatic bitters, we're using a chocolate bitter. And for me, that is a cocktail. Can I pair this one up for you? Because I did some. It's not quite cooking, but this is as much cooking as I'm doing today, especially since I'm drinking cocktails with you guys. So I just used it, like I'm going to tell people, it's a weird year, you're going to have small, like I'm doing Thanksgiving, just my sister and I are going to hang out. Like we're not going to we're going to drop some food off to my mom, but she's a little bit older, so we're doing the thing and giving space until this thing blows over, because we don't want anything to happen, of course. So it's just going to be two of us. Like we're doing the same thing. We're going to hang out, the two of us in my pup. But break out the right glassware. Give yourself a little garnish. I was joking. I did an interview with a reporter. Just put pants on that don't have elastic. As the main way they get held up. It's just because we've been locked up.
I'm feeling judged here.
It's kind of nice, you know what I mean? I mean, we've all been doing it, but the way I would finish my meal. So this is our rum old fashioned, and I just had a cube that's just from a silicone mold, real easy to freeze up in your. To give you a nice big chunk of ice, and I've got the right glass. I'm gonna give myself a nice twist. And it's just, I think it's like, for me with drinks too, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. It's really kind and excellent to hear someone with, you guys are around so much booze all the time, and see so many things for you to say, it's a cocktail you would order again in a bar. And I like to think that with the Crafthouse cocktails, if we put it in a glass on the right piece of ice and made a nice garnish, and it came out from the bar, you didn't see that it came out of a can, out of one of our little aluminum bottles, or out of the 750 or the box, that you'd be like, there's a good bartender back there. They made me a proper cocktail. So I would pair this with and you guys gave me a reason to go buy some pumpkin pie today, and this is gonna be my dinner. But then I also, I'm not allowed to have the cream. My body doesn't do so well with it. So I made a coconut cream whipped cream, and then I used 2 types of the bitters from Bittered Sling. I used their chocolate and their coffee bitters, but you could also grab Angostura bitters that you guys will have at the shop, or the Fee Brothers you guys have are really flavorful and great for this. I mean, there's so many flavors out there. You've got something that'll work with that. And I put them into this coconut whipped cream, the bitters straight into it. I love to cook with cocktail bitters as well, because a lot of times I think people buy bitters at the store and they're like, they make one drink with it and they're like, well, what do I do with them now? I'm like, everything. You put them in your cookie batter before you mix it. You put them in soups. You put them in glazes or sauces, all sorts of things. This is the first time I put them in whipped cream. But Brett, are you gonna be anywhere tonight, or bring us a piece of pie someplace?
We did, yeah, right.
Bitters in whipped cream. No shit. You just add them in before you whip it up, huh?
Yeah, put it in with the sugar and the can of coconut cream, 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, 2 long eyedroppers of the bitters. It gave it a nice tint to it. And then I put it in my little ISI whipper, hit it, and done. Super easy. Took about 5 minutes to make. And it is excellent too. I want to make ice cream out of this stuff. I'm going to eat this later, so I'm not eating it on screen with everybody.
I'm sure someone's eaten something on one of our virtual tastings.
Right.
Before. So
now I've got an old fashioned one.
That sounds like a great pairing, though, with the pumpkin pie. The one that seemed like an obvious one to me was actually the Gold Rush with the turkey. You had alluded to it earlier and how it was going to go protein and stuff. Like one of the most classic turkey pairings is honey, and like Saison DuPont out of Belgium makes a honey Saison every year, a Bière de Miel that I always enjoy with turkey, just because it's like it's a drier honey and it pairs so well with roast turkey character. And I'm probably going to have a Gold Rush with my turkey, just saying. But I'm probably not going to go through the effort of making any kind of garnish, though.
That's not right. Yeah, ice can be your garnish. The glass can be the garnish sometimes too.
That's about as complicated as I get. Yeah.
I mean, you can put it in the fridge, you can trick the can too.
Yeah, but you also brought up a very good, because for people who've been watching, if you sort of go back and look, this is almost like a little bit it like fits the lifestyle thing of, if a bartender handed you this in a glass and you didn't see everything that went on behind the scenes, you would think that you were just handed an excellent cocktail. Mm-hmm. And the amount of time, if everybody's been paying attention, that it took you was nothing. I mean, basically you chat and you crack a can and use that as your base. I'm just doing a little bit with mint or doing a little bit with a garnish. All of a sudden you have a bar-worthy cocktail. Yeah. Right. And you don't have to, which is kind of why we wanted to talk to you leading into Thanksgiving, just to make sure that everybody knew look, you're, especially at this point in time, you're spending a ton of time on all the food that you're putting on the plate. It's nice to know that you can have something like this that doesn't require all the time.
You're a big cook. Like you know that it doesn't take any less time to cook for 2 people than it does to cook for 5
Correct.
people. Because you still got to make, it's just, you're just prepping a little bit more when you're making for a big group. But that's honestly like, I live by myself, the dog doesn't really, have big demands when it comes to dinner. So, I don't cook as often as I would, because it takes to cook for one person takes like, you're prepping for hours to do something. If you had 4 people, great, like it's something different. So put your time into your dishes maybe, and this is what I would say. Make a couple of your signature dishes that you like to for Thanksgiving for you and whomever else you're quarantined up with. Maybe support some of these local restaurants that are doing some great dishes to go, and some of these places that can't have all the seatings they want. Maybe get a couple sides from them or whatever it might be. Get some cocktails, so you don't spend your time making your food, and then we took care of the cocktails for you. Maybe throw a nice beer in there. That sounds absolutely delicious. And mix it up a little bit. Maybe grab a bottle of sherry to finish off.
Well, this is the year to splurge on yourself. You don't have Uncle Frank cracking into your 3rd best bottle of whiskey of the night or something, or asking you to make them a 7th old fashioned. This is the year to like treat yourself with a nice cocktail and with a nice bottle of wine with your dinner for sure.
100%. And this is, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've finished more, and like not because of how much I drink, but I've grabbed some of these nicer bottles that have been sitting on the back bar, and that, you know, screw special occasion bottles, like those special, you know, Tuesday night's a special occasion. Drink it while it's good. Drink it, you know, while you're when you're in the mood for it. I don't believe in that, like, you know, silverware we only use on holiday stuff. Use it every day. Like, you know, buy nice glasses. And if you break one, then you got a broken glass. Who cares? Like, the glass is meant to be drank from. It's all right, you know.
Right.
It can be replaced. Like, it's a shame to see stuff just sit in a china cabinet the way like our parents used to do, and then nobody touches it. It's like, use it. Like, what are you gonna do with it? You know.
Well, and you've designed, like, a lot of the stuff you're using. Whatever of what you're using have you designed? Because I know that you've done some work with Fortessa to get a practical, sort of very, very nice home barware, home drinking sets without spending a ton of money.
That was an awesome collaboration. I got to design a whole line of barware and glassware and they were actually, we use the same name for that. It's Crafthouse by Fortessa. And we're at all over the place. You can find us. So like, actually this rocks glass is part of it, and it's kind of hard to see. You can't see there's etched lines on the side of the glass, and there's big etched lines on this, and really beautiful shakers. Even down to the prep knife is designed off of my favorite knife that I thought was perfection, that I got in Japan. And I was like, I can't design a better knife than this. I literally gave him the knife that was my prep knife from Japan. I was like, can we make this and, you know, not make it $300? Like, we're not going to use the exact same steel, but it feels the same way. And that's been super cool. But for me, that is, the liquid in the glass is most important, right? In terms of your flavor experience and your aroma experience. But then the glass, the ice, the garnish, those are the things that take something that's really good to really great. I mean, because we taste with our eyes. If you go to a restaurant and the chef, you know, brings everything out on paper plates and it's slopped on it and they drop it, even though it's the same food, you know, you're not going to feel the same way about it. I think it's for the extra 30 seconds it takes to put something into a decent glass, put some ice on it and throw a garnish on it. I think it's worth it. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times when I chill, I just have them in the fridge and crack it and drink straight from the bottle. It's kind of the beauty of the wide mouth aluminum format. Like, you can just sip straight from it, or, you know, once we get these boxes, you've got it right in the fridge and you just go and tap yourself some off in the glass. Like, that's, you know, that's the best kind of trouble, I think, during quarantine you get yourself into.
Yeah. This is good. It was interesting. One of the things, we kind of talked about your development process. Crunchy Lobe actually asked a little while ago, since you talked about specifically the story about the aviation. And the question is, is that in the works, or what might you have up your sleeve going forward in terms of new drinks that you're thinking about adding to the line?
Oh man, I mean, we've got so many ideas for all sorts of stuff. So we try to be, you know, we've now got seven cocktails. We've just added an eighth because this in the boxed format is going to launch our eighth cocktail, which is a spicy margarita. It's a jalapeno and chipotle margarita, and that'll only be in this format to start. So that's a lot, honestly, for a small but growing brand. You know, we're in 20 states now, you know, but we've got a tight team. We've got a tight crew of, I think we're up to 8 employees total. You know, our office used to be this glamorous office that you had to walk into from the alley off of Milwaukee Avenue in Wicker Park. And it was in the back of a salon space that had office
suitably
spaces.
hip.
Yeah, it was the back door was so graffitied over. It was like, it seemed like we had planned it that way, but it was just our janky back alley entrance into our office. So you know, I still live in Chicago. I'm in Logan Square. I'm born and raised. I mean, I've got, you know, I can't ever leave. I've got the flag on my arm, so I'm done. I gotta stay. But it's we're always working on new stuff, but you don't want to have 25 products. I mean, how much space are you going to give us at the store? You know what I mean?
Sure.
We have to be sensible.
We were ready to rename the place Crafthouse Beverage Depot. I mean, I don't
Right.
know what you're sitting on your thumbs for.
Well, we appreciate that very much. We'll talk when we're done here.
Well, you need, yeah. Well, and one of the things you have to understand about development project, which we asked, one of my favorite stories amongst the many, because Charles and I have known each other mostly from one of the late night haunts in downtown Chicago, where people in the trade meet after everybody's done working, except for, of course, the sad saps who have to work at the 4 o'clock bar.
Yeah.
And we've known each other since then. But I also, one of my favorite stories, Charles, is and it always brings to mind the development is Charles and I were both on coming back from Europe. Charles from the world's best bartender, and I think you were doing training. You had already were emeritus at that point in time, and you were doing some work with Diageo. I was coming back from a project I had been doing with the Irish Food Board, and we were both in Heathrow on a delayed flight in the lounge. And I'm running and we chat for a little while. Everybody's pissed off, of course, because our flight's delayed to come back from Heathrow to Chicago. And I turned around, it's like, well, listen, I'm going to go and try to knock off some more emails to try to catch up with work because I've been in Ireland for the last week. And Charles is like, I'm going to have a drink and hang out. The flight should be going. And the next thing I know, I get up to get myself a club soda. And Charles has 3 or 4 old British ladies in front of him, and he's making simple syrup. Do you remember that? You were teaching old ladies how to make simple syrup at the BA lounge. It's like, oh, you want a cocktail? Well, here, you can do this. And it's here. Charles Joly is making simple syrup in the BA lounge for ladies just so they can have a proper cocktail.
I think we made Earl Grey old fashions for them because we just grabbed, I mean, you're in airplane lounge. So we grabbed the Earl Grey tea bags are right there. We used the sugar packets and made some simple syrup out of the sugar. There's lemons right there. And they had the bar, you know, there was a nice lounge, international lounge. So they had the booze sitting right out there. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So that could be one of your
It was such a routine occurrence.
This is the Heathrow cocktail is what you can refer to that as.
There you go. You got to bottle it as a Crafthouse now, the Heathrow.
In true British style, though, like we didn't get nobody was tipping. No,
of course.
Right, exactly.
No offense, it's not the way of things. But no, I'm teasing. That's super funny. I know what a small world, but I don't know. I love making cocktails. It's legitimate, you know. It's I think we do this from a place of we talked about it like you were like, yeah, like this is a brand that comes from the bar. It doesn't come from like a boardroom somewhere. It wasn't like, oh, bottle cocktails are hot, we better jump in on that. We're like, hey, we know how to make cocktails, and people want cocktails in an easy to serve fashion that, because it's not somebody at home's job to know how to balance all these. It's not rocket science to make a cocktail. I love to teach people to make cocktails from scratch, but if you don't practice it as a skill constantly, then you're going to be okay at it. It's like learning a language or learning an instrument. You might pick up the basics of it, but sometimes you just want to pop a CD in and listen, or I just aged myself there, I guess. But you want to stream some music instead of picking up an instrument and playing it yourself. So it's I mean, it's been a fun project. I mean, we really appreciate you guys having us in the shops. I love to go in there and I just basically turn all the bottles, and they're like, who's this guy hanging out in the bottle cocktail section?
That's your job now, facing cans. Yeah.
That's it. Taking selfies with cans in the aisle. They're like this Instagram idiot over here, But,
It is amazing though how things have changed, because I remember, remember the days the market you entered were half gallons of Chi-Chi's margarita or a couple of expensive bottles.
Yeah, no, I love to see
the one pairing I'm looking forward to most now is going to be the rum old fashioned with the pumpkin pie, because those are both going to coincide with the family Zoom where I'm going to have to talk to some old uncles blathering on about something. I'm going to need both my strongest drink and my slice of pie at the same time. So we've come to the perfect inner part of our Venn diagram of me being housed late in the evening on Thursday.
Yeah.
I mean,
See, I don't know. I'm on the pineapple daiquiri personally,
pineapple
because
daiquiri,
that
yes.
is, because isn't that sort of the thing that you do with a bartender when, you know, if like a really good bartenders, when you guys are, you know, when bartenders are sniffing each other's butts to see what you know, it's sort of like if you're a chef, isn't
yes.
the ultimate, you make an omelet, right? If you're a chef, you make it just to see what kind of chops you have, you make an omelet. And isn't it one of the things that you make as
It
a
is.
bartender just to see if you have the really basic, simple skills,
Yeah.
you make a daiquiri, right?
Yeah, it is. It is the test of. It is the test of a bartender for sure. I mean, and it's also it's kind of a bartender's handshake in a lot of ways. You know, a lot of bartenders will call them snackeries, and if you go in and some industry rolls in, I might shake up one daiquiri and then you pour it between four people, and then you all just take a little nip and you each get a little swallow of daiquiri together. It's perfection. I mean, I would love to reintroduce people and reset the norm of what they believe a daiquiri is. It's such a beautiful cocktail, and so many cocktails have started with this holy trinity of rum, lime, and sugar. The daiquiri, the mojito, tea punch from down in Martinique in the French islands, the caipirinha down in Brazil. There's so many beautiful cocktails that have that combination. When you get it right, you need really good rum, you need real citrus, and then just enough sugar to balance it out, so you're not stripping the enamel off your teeth with straight citrus. But in this case, a dash of bitters and some really nice aged rums, and the pineapple infusion and the Stiggins pineapple. It's heaven. You got all those baking spices. That's that the pineapple daiquiri is my kind of one of my go-to daiquiris if I have the ingredients on hand. Don't get me wrong, I won't turn my nose up at a proper daiquiri, but I unfortunately can't go to my favorite bars, head down to Cuba. Hopefully we'll be able to get back into Cuba a little bit easier again before too long. And, I got to go down a couple times, but like that is, La Floridita, the famous bar where there's still to this day a bronze statue.
Hemingway #2 daiquiri,
Yeah, and he's leaning on the bar at the end of that. It's like their slogan is La Cuna del Daiquiri, like the cradle of the daiquiri. Like that drink is such a part of Cuban cocktail culture, which is one of the best cocktail cultures on the planet. I would argue.
You'll be making airport lounge cocktails there before you know it. Just give it a few months.
We are getting into some airports actually. So nobody's flying right now, but we have cocktails in a bunch of airports. So Newark, we're out in Newark right now in the United Terminal, and be down in Houston as well, and some others. So I think it's going to be perfect in that setting when you got to move quick. And that's it too. And these are going to be bartenders serving this. And I never want to take a bartender's job away from them. But if I work in an airport, and we've all flown, and you got a flight to catch. I mean, 5 minutes is important. Like that's important. Like, are you going to have that extra drink or not? Like you can grab one of these, and like in O'Hare, for example, I mean, you can get a drink to go and carry it with you right through the terminal. A lot of airports, you can carry it right through the terminal. So, this will hopefully be people's, or if you're flying right, this is your, one for the road.
Yeah.
People call this the bag and box. Well, this is just road soda.
Well, now you've been told. I mean, everybody's been told to bring your own because you don't get service anymore, right?
I mean, you can take the pouch out and put it in one of those Camelback backpacks, right?
You're thinking, man. I like this. You're thinking, man. Yeah.
Somebody's been to Lollapalooza once or twice. Yeah. Well, Charles, thanks a lot, man. This was a great hour. Obviously, we could talk about fun and strange airport cocktails with you indefinitely. But we appreciate the Thanksgiving pairings, and just a couple simple suggestions to, treat your herbs with a little disrespect and garnish your cocktail up too. So
absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much. And again, thanks for being, buddies, and also just, for supporting this local brand. And we hope people get out there and try it. The cool thing with these, again, they're all individual, so you can mix and match and get one of each and see what you like. And then when you love it, then that's when you get into the quarantine box. You want to call it a party. It's not really a party pack. It's more like your quarantine buddy. And
your new best friend.
So you want we want to follow mandates, leave the house as infrequently as possible. So you get 600 rolls of toilet paper, 40 boxes of spaghetti, and
A
about
couple
3
gallons
cases
of Mule, and you're always set.
Yeah, you're set. We'll see you in March.
Yeah, I mean, you're being a responsible citizen. I mean, it's just you're doing
It is.
it's your civic duty at this point. Really.
It is. I like that. Excellent. All right, you've got my vote.
Well, thanks a lot, Charles. Everybody else, we'll be back next week. I think we're talking to either New Riff or somebody else next week.
We've got New Riff coming up on the
Who else is?
29th.
No, yeah, New Riff is on the 9th. But we'll be back. Pontania will be back on Mondays with a long series of fortified and aromatized wine soon too. So if you like really getting into the esoterica with Brett and I, make sure you check out for that.
Yeah.
Balcones next week. Balcones whiskey next week.
Bob and Alicia. So Alicia must be looking at the website, and Bob must work for Davos Brands.
No, Bob's always joining in.
So we're doing that, and yes, and so keep that in mind. And anybody that wants it, Charles, we might actually, if you want to join in and see, we're working with Jake Parrott from House Alpens and doing a deep dive, following up with our deep dive into agave and mezcal that we did, our 4-week series that went 8 weeks. We're going to do aromatized and fortified wines. And
which aromatized wine for which distilled spirit. And,
anybody who's doing cocktails at home, absolutely, that House Alpens that you guys are going to be talking to, you're going to want to watch that. They are a flavor, just arsenal when it comes to cocktail ingredients and stuff that you want to sip on its own and just put over a little bit of ice. But they make such cool stuff.
So, all right. Well, thanks again, Charles. Thank you, everybody else, for joining us. We'll catch you next week, and be safe. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Cheers, everybody.
Thanksgiving to you guys.
All right. Cheers.
Get after the spicy margarita box next week because this is good. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.